Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University.
Namaskar students, I am Dr. Himanshu Patel and I am working as an assistant professor in School of Computer Science of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University, and I am your instructor for this module. In today's session, we will learn about permissions. We want to write down these demonstration for requesting permission. So in figure you can see there are two buttons. The first which requests camera permission and another button which requests SMS permission, right? So our user interface is very simple. We try to request camera and SMS permission at runtime from user, and for example if you click on request camera permission and that permission is already granted by user, you can display toast that permission is already granted. Similarly, if SMS permission is already granted, you can also display message permission is already granted. But if it is not granted or we are requesting for the first time, then when user clicks on request camera permission button, you should display dialog box similar to this, that whether you want to allow permission demo. Permission demo is the name of our app. So here you can see permission demo. So it is asking whether you want to allow these app to take pictures and record video. So there are three options: while using the app, only this time, or deny. And when you click on request SMS permission and if permission is not granted, then this dialog box appear for the first time and ask whether you want to allow these app to send and view SMS messages. If it is allowed, if user clicks on allow button, then that permission is granted and you can send or receive message on behalf of user. And if it is denied by the user, then you cannot send or read SMS from within your app. Let us try to write down this code inside Android Studio. So friends, this is my welcome to Android Studio dialog. I have already written one project called permission demo inside Android Studio for you. So I want to open that project. So I am clicking on permission demo. Now it will open that project for me. First of all, we will understand the project structure, right? Here there is a one main activity inside which we write down our code, and one resource layout file which is activity underscore main.xml. We have already understand this layout file. Just look at the ID of this button. The ID of button is btn cam and ID of this button is btn SMS. And what we want to do when user clicks on this button, we have already discussed. So this is a layout file which is very simple. Only two buttons are there and we want to request user for runtime permission when any of these button is clicked. So this is our interface. We have already discussed where to declare your permission. So you can declare your permission inside Android manifest file. So I am opening my Android manifest file. Here I have write down use permission internet. When you write down this permission, you have to just write down use and it will automatically suggest use this permission. Here you have to just select the permission you want and then close this element. So this is how we define permission. But as we discussed earlier, this is normal permission. You need not to request it from user, it is automatically granted. And this is example of signature permission. Here we have declare one signature permission, and these three are runtime permission or dangerous permission. So they are camera, send SMS and read SMS. So here we declare one normal permission, one signature permission and 3 runtime or dangerous permission. We want to ask user for these permission at runtime. So how to do that? So let us go to our main activity file. Here I declare two integer variable. To better understand, I have given name camera and SMS and initialize it value to 100 and 101. You can have any value for these variables, right? And here I declare two buttons because I want to perform click event of these buttons in layout file. So I declare two button btn cam and btn sms, which represents our button in layout file. Here I initialize this button using find view by id method, and next I implement its on click method. So here what we want to do is we want to check permission from user. If it is already granted, then there is no need to do anything. If it is not granted, we want to request these permission from user, and this is a variable declare here. Now this is a user defined function. It means I have written these function in activity file. How it works, let us try to understand. And when user clicks on request SMS permission button, here we call same function, but in this case we write down that we want to check these permission is granted or not, and this is a constant. Now actually what will happen inside this function, how to check whether particular permission is granted or not. So for that, remember, this is our permission name and this is our request code. Now how it works, here I declare one integer variable grant and call these context compact class check self permission method to check whether particular permission is granted or not. So here it takes two arguments. First, which activity we want to check for permission, and the second is actual permission. This function context compact dot check self permission will take two argument, activity name and permission that we want to check, and it returns either granted or denied, right? So in these grant we get result whether this permission is granted by activity or not. So here in if condition I write down grant double equals package manager dot permission denied. If it refers to permission denied, then what happens, we want to actually request these permission from user, and for that we can use this function activity compact dot request permission. First we have checked whether permission is granted or not, and inside grant we get this result denied. It means permission is still not granted, so we request user for that permission using this method activity compact dot request permission, and arguments are activity, permissions that we want to ask, and this request code is sent to on request permission result. Now let us try to understand what will happen when user clicks on button request camera permission. We call this function. Inside that function we have checked whether this permission is granted or not. If it is denied, we request permission, and it has three argument, activity name, list of permission and request code to return result inside these on request permission result. Now these will display dialog box to user that whether you want to allow these requests given in this string array. This method is automatically called. So this function is called when user accept or decline the permission. Request code is used to check which permission called for this function, and request code is provided when user is prompt for permission. So basically these displays that dialog box for requesting permission, but after permission is granted or denied, this method is automatically called by the Android system, and here we get for which code it requests this list of permission, and whether that permission is granted or not, that result we get inside this integer array. For example, we have two permissions, read SMS and send SMS. So inside these we get result as an array, whatever is there. If our request code is camera, because we have provided here second argument as a camera, which is passed to this request code, which is again passed to request permission and provided here. So if request code is camera, now if user grant at least one permission, then grant result array is not empty. So if its length is greater than 0 and the first permission, we have requested only one permission, so we need to check only first element of grant result, and if grant result is 0 equals permission granted, then we can say camera permission granted. Otherwise we can display message camera permission is denied. And similarly, if request code equals SMS and grant result greater than 0, it means permission is granted and first element is permission granted. We can say not storage but SMS permission granted, and here we can say SMS permission denied. So let us recall the entire thing once again. Here inside on click we called check permission. Now this check permission is user defined function which checks whether that permission is given by this activity or not. If result is denied, we request that permission by calling this request permission method, and it displays that dialog box, and whatever result given by user in dialog box, then this method is automatically called, and it has 3 parameters for which request code result is there. These are the list of permissions granted or denied by user, and here is the actual result, allow or denied. So here we have check for particular request code that if it is granted, then we display message permission granted, otherwise we will display permission denied. And for sake of simplicity, we have write down separate if condition for camera and SMS. Now let us try to run these app in our actual device. So my phone is connected with my laptop, you can see here. Now I want to run this app. So first of all it build my app and then try to install this app on my phone. Now it is installing app and launch that activity on my phone. So on screen you can see my app is running on my mobile. Now I am clicking on request camera permission. So it tells permission already granted because I have earlier installed this app, right? So it displays message permission already granted. Similarly, in case of SMS, it also says permission is already. Now how to revoke these? So for that you have to go to app and long press this app and go to info. Here you can see that what are the permission granted, right? So here I want to deny. So I want to say ask every time. And in case of SMS, I want to deny. Then I can click on deny. Now let us try to rerun this. Now remember, app permission is revoked already. So when I click on request camera, it displays these dialog box whether you want to allow these to take pictures and record videos. If I am clicking on while using the app, it means it is allowed only when my app is running, so that I come to know what kind of operation it is performing. Only this time means for single time, and if I click on deny, the permission is denied forever. So I cannot perform anything on this. I am clicking on while using the app. So here it displays message camera permission granted. Now I want to request SMS app. So there are only two options, either allow or deny. So I am clicking on allow. So it displays message SMS permission granted. So now I can access sending or receiving SMS from within this app with user permission. But what will happen if I click again on this button? It displays message permission already granted. Similarly, we have already granted SMS permission, so it also displays message permission already granted. I hope you enjoyed this session and demonstration. Thank you and happy learning.
स्वाध्यायः